A couple of years ago, I had a kite surfing accident where I tore my two carotid arteries, the main arteries to my brain. I nearly died, so I was in ICU for 2 weeks, and the doctors really couldn't do much for me. I got quite frustrated. All you're telling me is just lie on your back and kind of accept that. So we had this brand new ingredient, and I started using that immediately. And I think that actually made a huge impact in getting my brain back to health.
Alwyn, my first question should be easy for you to answer. Since you have a nutrition company, let's just say that, how would you rate your overall well-being on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, okay, so I'm really excited to be here. This is my first podcast appearance, and I really love new experiences and growing. So I would say my experiencing self is really happy right now. I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Something that really fascinates me is living this holistic lifestyle as an entrepreneur. So I wonder if you could define what a balanced lifestyle means for you, and also maybe give us a typical day in the life of Alwyn.
Yeah, I'm not sure if entrepreneurship is really for a person looking for a balanced lifestyle, but I'm quite into exploring consciousness and the meaning of life and how to live a good life. And I've found like looking after your mental health is obviously crucially important because it impacts all aspects of your life. And my journey has involved a lot of learning how to get out of my head and more into the present moment through meditation mostly. And so I would say that has made a massive difference in my life. I'm very, very driven towards my purpose.
What is your purpose?
I heard you asking questions about previous guests' background. So I thought a little bit about my entire story and what brought me to where I'm currently. And I think the overarching theme in my life has kind of been a search for truth, for deeper meaning, and just the unquenchable curiosity, really. So finding out how the world works and kind of playing with the world and trying to see what you can change. And business is one of those tools that you can really make an impact and change the world. So I think that's kind of a very deep conceptual drawing for me to business. And then obviously my business is in health. So health is absolutely a passion for me as well personally. So that's kind of the joining of those two is where I ended up.
And going into meditation, what practices do you actually do? And could you maybe walk us through your daily practice?
I used to be completely the nutty professor type of in my head the whole time. So for me, there was a lot of room for improvement. So my daily routine is every morning I meditate, not for long, so maybe 10 or 20 minutes. So I wake up and have a cup of coffee, not really meditating, just focusing on my thoughts, so allowing the thoughts to appear. So I kind of think it's similar to journaling for me, but journaling is just a little bit too slow for me. So I like letting the thoughts flow. And then I do 10 minutes of meditation, and I vary that. I used to use the app, Sam Harris's Waking Up app. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Amazing guided meditations with a lot of intellectual stimulation kind of intertwined in there. So very secular, but guiding you through the steps. So I could really recommend it, that to users. Waking Up app. That is basically it. And then throughout the day, try and intersperse it with moments of being in the moment.
Okay, and specifically on meditation, how has that helped you in your daily professional life?
I think it's crucial. I think the first thing in order to control the world is to be able to control your own mind. So I would say it's absolutely crucial to be aware of your thinking and to be able to change it and to be able to change your mental state. Without that, you're really afloat in the world.
Okay, I want to go back to you studying engineering. So you studied engineering, you worked as an engineer, and then you pivoted into BCom. So
Yeah.
what made you pivot?
My entire life journey has been guided really through by curiosity. So, like I said, in high school, that kind of played out by becoming very interested in math and science. So I was very interested in gaining knowledge, but not any type of knowledge. So fundamental knowledge, kind of trying to understand the basics, the fundamentals of how the world is stitched together. And for me, that was math and science, but I didn't study pure science. I studied engineering just for practical reasons. My dad is a civil engineer, so he had got a lot of influence on me. And I enjoyed engineering, but I also was very interested in how society works and economics, especially, but then also business. So I just started studying BCom financial management purely out of curiosity. So I studied that while working full time. And then I kind of pivoted out of engineering into project finance because of that. So I spent some time in valuing and modeling large scale infrastructure projects. I spent a couple of years doing that.
And were there any seeds planted for entrepreneurship and starting your own business?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that was always the end game in my mind, is to start a business. For me, the appeal of starting a business was mainly also like intellectual. It's really interesting to me that you can create value for society by creating an intangible thing like a business, you know. So that was always, I kind of had to choose between engineering, which I knew suited my aptitudes, and business, which I was really interested in, but I wasn't sure whether I would be able to be a good businessman. But at the end, I co-founded Tailorblend with my partner Bernard, and that is actually was a great solution for me because he covers for many of the aspects where I'm lacking. So yeah, that's kind of my journey.
So the theme of this show is to get on individuals that have built or currently building impactful businesses in order to inspire young entrepreneurs to build impactful businesses, specifically in Africa. And so Tailorblend is one of those impactful businesses. But I want to go back to 2014 Tailorblend.
Yeah.
So could you walk me through what made you guys start it?
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe the journey of how it evolved.
Okay, great. So I quit my job as an engineer, and my friend Bernard, co-founder, we've been friends since preschool, so a long-time friend. He had this idea for basically what turned out to be Tailorblend, and that was to have personalized nutritional supplements that's totally unique to the individual. And he got this idea when he heard about nutrigenomics on the radio. So I think it was Yale Joffe of D-Analysis who spoke about DNA testing really for consumers, that obviously tells you something about your body. It gives you insights into your body. And Bernard just immediately realized, okay, but that is not enough. You need an easy way to take action on if you get your DNA report. And the obvious solution is just to have all your nutrients in one product. So that was kind of the origins of the idea. But I wasn't involved initially. Bernard had investors lined up at that stage, just at the ideation stage, really. And with my history in finance, he pulled me into one of the final meetings with a VC. And I assumed my job was just to give advice and just to point out risks. So in that meeting, I started querying the VCs just about the terms and the term sheet, and had them explain it like explicitly to Bernard. And I think that kind of made them look a little bit like sharks, because I think it was actually a little bit of an unreasonable deal. And the meeting almost turned hostile there. I saw Bernard went white-faced. His little company failed even before it started, and the VC guys got quite aggressive. And anyway, so the whole meeting was kind of a flop. And in the car back, I really felt bad. I still think it would have been a poor deal. But in the car back, I felt quite bad. So I decided now I'll help Bernard find alternative investors. And luckily for me, I did find some early investment at a much better price for Bernard. So that's kind of the first step. I became involved, but I still wasn't involved with the business. At that stage, was still Bernard's baby. And in that time, I was actually doing my MBA. So, doing an MBA is quite rough. So I commuted on the Gautrain, and it's quite interesting. When your mind is so busy, it stimulates lots of ideas. And on the train back, I still remember this clearly. I thought of a way how to automate the product development process around these supplements. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But just the framework, how to actually make these supplements at scale. And I was really excited about I phoned Bernard. He wasn't immediately taken to the idea, but we explored it a little bit further. And once he saw the value of that framework, he suggested we actually patent the idea, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous because really broad. But I agreed, and we spoke to a patent attorney, and I did a patent search. And what I found was no competing patent protecting doing personalized supplements, which is obviously what my idea was about, but probably hundreds of patents pending for all kinds of technologies that would determine what nutrients individuals need. Things like nutrigenomics, but also gut microbiome, wearables, all kinds of information that tells an individual what nutrients they would need. So when I saw that, I just saw, okay, there's a big wave coming here, and I better get on. So I invested all my money in Tailorblend at that stage and became involved when I saw that massive opportunity coming our way. So that was 2014.
And over time, how did it evolve to what it is today?
So we were right about the wave, but wrong about the timing. So our company is totally dependent on those information technologies that determine what should be in your blend. Because most consumers don't have the knowledge to be able to select their own ingredients. So that they have to have some kind of tool that tells them what nutrients they should be taking. And what we're seeing now internationally is just an explosion of companies that provide those tools. So that's why we are really only now scaling up Tailorblend. The opportunity is only ripe now, many years later.
And what makes Tailorblend unique and different from other supplement companies?
Yeah, so we were actually the first 100% personalized nutritional supplement company in the world that we could find in 2014. But like I said, people have caught on recently, and I would say over the last 3 years, we've seen many personalized nutrition companies pop up globally, mostly in the US. And even the big conglomerates like Nestle and those guys and Bayer, they're making acquisitions in this field, buying up startups and investing heavily in personalized nutrition. So this is not a novel idea anymore. But what we've seen in the first wave of personalized nutrition companies is that they offer personalized pill packs. So basically, they determine what nutrients you need, and then they select capsules for you and put it in a daily pack for you. So that is great for a start, and most companies started that way because it's just the easiest way to enter the market. But that's fundamentally limited just because of the volume that you can fit into capsules. So in order to fit in the nutrients that's typically recommended by a DNA test, the consumer ends up with handfuls of pills, 20 pills per day that they have to take, and it's just not feasible. So what we do is supplements in powder form. So one of our servings can typically replace up to 50 capsules. So that's kind of our competitive advantage. Most people also don't enjoy taking capsules, where ours is a beverage, either a fruity drink, let's say crushed orange flavor or Islanders pineapple, 0 calorie, and our other product type is protein shakes, so decadent dark chocolate. And into either of these two products, you can then incorporate your own selection of nutrients, of which we currently have a selection of over 120 functional ingredients.
And could you walk us through the process of the actual customization? So a customer goes on your website, does a questionnaire, and what's the process after that?
Yeah, so we have actually many ways to interface with our company. We started out by offering our product through dietitians and integrative doctors. We just realized they already prescribe these kind of nutrients, but then they sent people to, let's say, Dischem with a script. And people end up with many different products, and it's expensive to buy all of them separately. And then they kind of fall off as well. A month or two later, there's a huge drop-off, because it's just difficult to manage that many products, right? Okay, so we primarily then started out by selling through dietitians. We found that even that had quite a hurdle. So dietitians were so excited when we first exposed them to this idea, but we found a kind of a reluctance for them just to utilize it in their practices, just because it's a new concept. It's just very new to create a new blend, and they didn't know really where to start. So we have this platform on our website where you can build your own supplement from scratch. So you go there and you select all your active ingredients, select your flavors, your sweetener types, everything it's fully customizable. But obviously that's people often get into an analysis paralysis, playing around and never ending up buying the actual product. So our solution to that was for us to just receive the DNA test reports for their patients who has done DNA tests. So that's kind of how we really started selling more product, is to get the dietitian to send us the DNA report, and then we do a formulation. We work with a couple of companies to get those formulations right, and then we send the blend electronically to the dietitian, who can then buy it on behalf of the patient, or send it electronically to the patient that can then buy the product. So that's one way to interact with us. So we have many others as well, which I can describe.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next way was really to integrate with what we call health intelligence companies. The first type is nutrigenomics companies. So we did a full integration with Biocertica in South Africa, where you can then test your DNA, and they give your test results on an app, so a mobile app. And the idea is really that you can just click on a button there that says, okay, I've seen my results, but now I want to take action. So show me my personalized supplement. And that routes you to our website, where you can then buy the product. And only 2 weeks ago, we launched our first direct-to-consumer channel, which is really the first time now that we interface directly with the consumer. And that's by means of a health questionnaire. So it's a very simple health questionnaire. It takes you 5 minutes to complete. You can access that from our homepage, just tailorblend.co.za. It takes you 5 minutes, and then it shows you your personalized nutritional supplement. So we launched that now in partnership with Momentum Multiply. So that is, I would say, the easiest way to interact with our company.
And in terms of scaling, how does that affect your manufacturing process?
Yeah, so manufacturing in South Africa is done by hand, so manual manufacturing, which is obviously quite expensive. So the per unit cost of manufacturing our products is quite expensive. But then one of our products are very comprehensive typically. So it typically replaces between 5 and 10 retail products, which means that we have a lot of leeway to work with, because we save quite a lot of money by just combining all those products. And that allows us to already outcompete standard products on price. in South Africa. So once you go over a certain limit, let's say if you add more than 5 ingredients, then it becomes cheaper to buy from Tailorblend, as opposed to going and buying those supplements separately from let's say Discount.
And what's your guys' plan to scale?
Yeah, so the exciting part for our business really began when our patent was granted in the US. So the patent covers the automatic recipe formulation, and it's quite broad. I mean, I can chat a little bit about that, but I'm really excited about that aspect of the business. And when the patent was first granted, we just thought, okay, but the patent might not be fully utilized by us starting organically in the US and growing the business from scratch. We thought maybe some of the incumbents, like the big companies like Nestle, the biggest supplement company in the world, might be able to leverage this IP better than us. Okay, so that's kind of our mindset that we had originally. So we started chatting to Nestle, went through quite a long journey with them. Firstly, interrogating the idea of powder personalized supplements, which was very favorably received. Kind of surprised me quite a lot. So they acquired Persona, so they already had their personalized nutritional company, which also had capsule packs. And unbeknownst to us, they were like actively looking for powder formats. So that was kind of a great fit for us. So they interrogated the patent. We spoke to the commercial guys, went through a whole series of things, but we ended up with the global head of R&D, Susan Aid. And she said exactly what you're asking now. How do you scale this business? How do you manufacture this type of supplements at scale? And we really didn't know. We said, okay, we thought you guys were going to give us that answer. And they kind of sent us back to the drawing board, and we teamed up with some engineers, and we investigated how we might do it. And we came up with a conceptual design for an automated factory. And I can talk about that as well, but that's the second thing I'm really excited about. Anyway, so we presented that again to Nestle. And a long story short, Susan Aid, I just spoke about, ended up not only liking the idea, she invested in Tailorblend personally, and she also joined our team full-time as international COO.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a great vote of confidence. But I can quickly just mention the manufacturing, the scaling of the manufacturing. Okay, so obviously that's really important. And what we've seen is many companies in the US floundering on that point. And it seems very simple, but I think it's so pervasive. Just a false assumption. So the assumption is if you go from mass production standard products, if you go more niche and you diversify and you have smaller batches that you manufacture, then the conventional belief is obviously that your per unit cost goes up and the product becomes more expensive, and at some stage it becomes prohibitive. Right, so that is the set mindset. We encountered it in all our meetings. But then we found that if you jump from like a complete paradigm shift from batch manufacturing, which is traditionally the supplement manufacturing mode, if you jump to continuous manufacturing, then it's actually quite easy to make 100% personalized supplements at an efficiency that exceeds batch manufacturing. Now, what I already told you in terms of the South African business is we don't manufacture one product at a time. We, in effect, produce up to 10 products at a time. So that means that in the long term, as we launch in the US, we cannot outcompete standard products in price. We'll outcompete them by far. So that kind of, once we realized that, we kind of changed our entire mission of the company, where we decided personalized nutrition should be available to all.
What is continuous manufacturing?
It's just a production line, basically. So batch manufacturing entails buying all the raw materials for a big batch and then blending it all together and so on. And obviously that can't work for a personalized product. So they just couldn't see it. But continuous manufacturing is just a production line. I mean, I can't speak about the details. There's a bit of IP in there. But basically, you make one product at a time. And we just realized the way that we can set up the whole factory, it really doesn't matter whether the supplement is completely homogeneous, which is the second false assumption. The assumption is to have a continuous production line work, you have to have all the supplements be exactly the same, all the products exactly. I mean, Henry Ford said you can have a Model T Ford in any color as long as it's black. So that belief is still there, but we kind of proved you don't have to stick with black.
What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who want to patent their IP?
I have this conversation quite a lot with investors, whether how much they value patents. Is it really valuable or not? And it differs quite a lot. And I'll maybe be able to tell you whether it's worthwhile after the fact. But what I can tell you is we patented it successfully in South Africa and the US and New Zealand and pending in Australia. And each country's patent laws differ quite a lot. So in South Africa, it's quite easy to get something patented. They don't interrogate it as deeply. But then once you have to defend your patent, that is kind of where the rubber hits the tar, and you have to make sure your patent is watertight. Where in the US, they're quite strict. So you have to go through quite an arduous process and prove the novelty and the commercial usefulness and the inventive step. I think those are the main three requirements for a patent. And but once it's granted then it's quite watertight. But in terms of patents, the other thing that I've learned is you have one shot. So you have to get the priority date as soon as possible to make sure there's no other competing ideas. So as soon as the idea is out there in the world, then that idea is not patentable anymore. But once you've filed for a patent, then obviously you have priority date. So from that date onwards, it doesn't matter if anybody else has exactly the same idea. If you were first, then you have the idea. But then obviously what I've learned is you have to be very careful what you file there. So the devil is in the details. Make sure your claims are specified well, and your patent attorney is great and he understands exactly what your business is. And then you have to decide whether you want a really broad patent that is difficult to circumvent, but that might make it a little bit more difficult to attain, to get it granted, or whether you go very specific and that increases your probability of getting it granted. So that's one of the reasons I was a little bit skeptical about our patent, because it's extremely wide, extremely broad. But we managed to get it through.
And you guys were recently venture-backed. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Before that, how challenging was it to bootstrap?
Extremely. No, it was extremely difficult. And we were constantly turning our pennies around to try and make sure the company survives. So like I said, it's been quite a long journey for us to wait for the market to be ripe and for the idea to become obvious to investors and so on as well. So it was a very long and difficult journey. I think we did extremely well where Bernard and myself kept our equity. So we managed not to sell the entire business before it became really feasible. So that's one of the things I'm really proud of. But yeah, it was tough.
And was that because you bootstrapped for a long time that you were able to keep a majority stake?
That's right. And to be honest, we put a lot of our time in without drawing any money from the company. So I still consulted as a civil engineer on the side, and Bernard was actually CEO of one of the largest powder supplement contract manufacturers in South Africa. So we kind of had our day jobs for quite a while. But we started trading with Tailorblend from the beginning, so in 2015. And we spent that time developing our IP and tasting all the blends and making sure our algorithms gets updated.
And in terms of the VC side of things, how did you guys select the right partners?
We kind of had two tranches or two separate raises that we want to do. So the first was for the South African business, but then also for the US business. And that is just the scale of those two raises, just an order of magnitude apart. So we kind of started with both raises at the same time. And what we found was what you need to raise money is really a network. And we didn't have that. So cold emailing 200 VCs, we did that. So I actually went to the US now in April and tried to get a couple of VCs lined up. And just the week before I went was the banking crisis in the US. So that was quite a mess. And the only success really we had with that trip was the personal introductions through a network. None of those 200 cold emails did anything. And then in South Africa, so we decided, okay, maybe we should do a smaller step in South Africa just to give us a little bit of a leg up for the international raise. And how we met, so it was Anza Capital who invested in us. And that was also kind of through a network. So I knew Saskia from school. She's the COO there. And I contacted her and said, well, I had a look at your website and you guys look right up our alley. They invest in food technology, which is our core IP. So from the onset, it was just a perfect match, actually.
In terms of your marketing strategy to expand your customer base, what's your overall strategy?
Yeah, so we're iterating quite a lot with this company. We kind of see the South African business as our pilot for the international business. So we're now, like I said, we just launched our direct-to-consumer channel now, which we're going to use marketing spend for the first time really in the history of the company. We'll definitely go through some iterations there to find the right way. So I don't know what the right answer is. We're gonna try a couple of different things. But the important part for me is to prove the channels that ties into our long-term vision for the US. So how we see the market play out is really all these companies that we see now, the what we call health intelligence companies that have these different ways of telling you what nutrients you need. We see them all maturing, and all of them are going to need a supplement to make it actionable for their clients. So in the US, we'll launch a B2B business primarily. So the automated factory will have quite a large initial volume, and to take up that volume, we need the traction that those companies already have. And then we already see the hints of where the industry is going in a couple of years, which is platforms that just collates all these different types of informations. So that your genetic test, your blood test, your entire clinical background, your real-time data from your wearable device. This will be accessible on platforms like Apple Health and those type of platforms. And that information is also going to be democratized. So it's going to become free. And we kind of want to intersect that world where we are then the product partner for those massive companies. So that is why the channels like the Biocertica channel in South Africa is so important for me, is to be able to build those systems and to prove that we can successfully do those relationships. So that's a long answer to your question, but I mean, for our company is always twofold. So how to get a South African company to scale in profitability in South Africa, but then for me personally, the bigger picture is how do we get to our vision, which is to make these supplements ubiquitous.
I actually did your questionnaire on your website just to see the entire process. And when it came to the summary of what's required and what I'm lacking in, it seems that sleep, good diet, managing stress levels seems to be the cause of all those conditions.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your advice to individuals to actually manage all those things and mitigate so that, we don't end up with these horrendous diseases?
Yeah, it's all related to general health. I mean, your sleep, all of those things are affected by how well your body works. So it's a really complex system, and I think the value of supplements, I mean, I think the word supplement is a little bit of a misnomer in my opinion, as people think it's limited to just replenishing something that is maybe missing in your blood or something as simplistic like that. But I mean, you don't take aspirin because you're deficient in aspirin. You take it because you want to solve your headache. And same with caffeine, and with supplements is the same. So you don't take curcumin because you're deficient in it. It's because you want to solve your inflammation, maybe. I look at it very much in a systems view, where you want to solve the underlying system, which will then address your symptoms. What we try and do in the questionnaire is identify the underlying metabolic pathways that might be addressed by supplements. So whether it's detoxification or inflammation or bone health or methylation, so many different pathways can be addressed with supplements.
And I also noticed that inflammation seems to be a hot topic. How does one keep the inflammation levels low?
What I can tell you is preventative care, of which addressing inflammation is crucially important. I mean, that's one of the main trends that we see in the health industry. It's just a shift in focus from disease treatment after the fact. So if you get some kind of disease, we give you some kind of pharmaceutical that addresses that problem. And that worked extremely well for us in the last 100 years. We solved so many different diseases. But the ones that remain are almost by default the ones that's not effectively treatable in that way. Like Alzheimer's and metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all these type of diseases aren't treatable really after the fact, but they are preventable. And then once again, how can you prevent these diseases? There's only a couple of levers that you can pull. I mean, you definitely exercise is crucially important, as well as sleep. But I mean, the biggest lever that you can pull is just what you ingest, what you put into your system.
How valuable has supplements been in your life, in your daily life?
My daily supplement, I have quite a comprehensive supplement. I don't know if you want to show this.
So this is Tailorblend. You could walk us through that.
Yeah, so I mean, collagen, probiotics, creatine, glucosamine, vitamin C, carnitine, enamine, curcumin, resveratrol, coenzyme Q10. I mean, the list goes on. This is a comprehensive product, but I can't tell you which one of these ingredients or which combination of ingredients, but it just completely lights up my brain. So instead of taking it in the mornings now, I take it before important meetings, just because it just feels like it boosts my IQ by 20%. So that's really, so it's valuable for me. But the story I wanted to tell was a couple of years ago, I had a kite surfing accident where I tore my 2 carotid arteries, the main arteries to my brain. And I nearly died. So I was in ICU for 2 weeks, and the doctors really couldn't do much for me. So my brain was kind of hypoxic, so it didn't get enough oxygen, and you basically lie there in the hospital on your back, and they give you something for the headaches, and it's quite bad. I mean, I lost some of my senses, couldn't taste sweetness. I had this massive rushing in my ears, like loud noise, and obviously the headaches. And yeah, it was quite a big event in my life. And then when the doctors I got quite frustrated, because I mean, it's like I had this major event now, and I'm lying in a hospital, and all you're telling me is just lie on your back and kind of accept that. So when I got a little bit back into it, I started thinking, and I was also a free diver, which is just apnea diving, which just hold your breath and go down in the ocean, snorkeling and spearfishing, those kind of things. And just being interested in this field before this accident, I actually discovered that if you go into a state of ketosis, which is a metabolic state where you use lipids like fats for energy, that chemical process is actually much more oxygen efficient in generating energy. So if you free dive, the hypothesis was, and you're in ketosis, then for every kilojoule of energy that you need much less oxygen. So you can just keep your breath much longer. So I tried that, obviously. And then when I was lying there in the hospital, I thought to myself, okay, what is happening now to me? My brain is hypoxic. I'm not getting enough oxygen in my brain. So I started researching ketosis, and I saw there were actually animal studies proving exactly that for hypoxic events like strokes, ketosis is actually very valuable for recovery, not only because it gives oxygen in an oxygen-starved brain, but it also counteracts inflammation, and glucose metabolism is actually very toxic in those conditions in your brain. So it takes that away. So it's actually very beneficial. So I started just by accident. Our company was actually, I think by a narrow margin, the second company in South Africa that had exogenous ketones. So a brand new ingredient that we made available, and that usually to get in ketosis, you have to starve yourself for at least a day, but actually more to 2 days before you get into ketosis. So we had this brand new ingredient, almost the first in the country, and I started using that immediately on my bed there in the hospital, and I think that actually made a huge impact in kind of getting my brain back to health.
And what's your opinion on the traditional prescription of medication by, call them, Western doctors?
I think pharmaceuticals has been extremely valuable to humanity. I think there's a big place for it. I think it might be overprescribed, and like I said, there's definitely a need to shift to preventative care.
And what's your big, hairy, audacious goal for Tailorblend?
So the soft goal is just to make it easy for people to be healthier, But then the goal for me as a businessman is to disrupt the industry. So we don't only want to be dominant in the personalized nutrition market. We think we can disrupt the entire traditional supplement market. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how it is now. I mean, expecting consumers to go to a Dis-Chem or wherever and face a wall of supplements and thinking they would know which supplements they should be taking. That's kind of ridiculous. And offering them 5 different types of magnesium, I mean, consumers don't want that. So I think the industry is ripe for intervention, and I always ask myself, okay, but if one single personalized supplement is easier, better, and half the price, why would you still buy a standard supplement?
Thank you, Alwyn. Thank you for your time and also the education that you've imparted today. And also thank you for the impact that you're making in the health tech space. And I hope that you do disrupt this industry and make it accessible for everyone to have these custom supplements and just make this huge impact, not only in Africa, but globally. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been fun and it has been great to meet you.